Who does not want to live to be a centenarian? Please raise your hand. Okay, I see no hands are up. It is safe to suppose that most everybody wants to live a long life, right? How to achieve it, it's another story. But lately, a lot of anti-aging lectures have been popping out all over the internet lately, which the lectures of all kinds tell us the inherent secrets of longevity, in particular the blue zones. In fact, news are flashed with those blue zones theories and the rationale why people there reach a remarkable old age. Whoever is not familiar with this term, it is a name attached to places of the world where people live a really long life. A good portion of them are centenarians, meaning they passed 100 years of age, and with a good health. Then, without any more ado, the health gurus start analyzing these places to come to a conclusion what makes people live there for so long. But really, this short video intends to bring a broader outlook and apply critical analysis of those myths, and will register some simple common sense. And common sense is always helpful in any venue of life, and not taking everything you hear for granted is very helpful. Especially in the age of the internet, when one guru throws an idea in his blog or his clip, then another one quotes him and pastes his idea on his blog, and then other people start copying and quoting them, because if the gurus said it, it must be true. And from there on, it's just rolling like a snowball gathering momentum. So let's see what are these places called blue zones. It seems there are 5 places of this in the world where people live longer, and these places are the island of Ikaria in Greece, the island of Okinawa in Japan. It's a bunch of islands. The island of Sardinia in the Mediterranean. It is part of Italy. A community called Loma Linda in California, and a community called Nicoya in Costa Rica. Without the need to point to the exact places on the world map, what comes to you in mind when hearing these places? For me, the immediate thing that pops up first, all these places are located in relatively good and moderate climate. Yeah. It also can be characterized as places of low altitude. It could be also characterized as more natural and rural places. It could be also characterized as proximity to ocean or sea. It could be also characterized as fairly laying in and around the same latitude and in reasonable developed nations. But the most prominent factor that I see for these places, they are very isolated places. An island here, an island there, a peninsula, a segregated community. But we will return to this in just 1 minute. We will start with what the lecturers tell us unanimously, that those blue zones where people eat naturally, maybe a Mediterranean diet or fish, or they live in a strong community and move during the day, live close to nature, maybe have a strong faith. This is what counts, and so on and so on. So let's see some quotes from the study, just in brief. Here is a short collection of what published about the blue zones and what makes life there so great. We'll start with the island of Ikaria. That's an island in Greece, eastern part of the Aegean Sea. People in Ikaria live on average 10 years longer than those in the rest of Europe and United States. They not only live longer, but better, live healthier. According to the scientific studies, these island dwellers have much more lower rates of cancer and heart diseases. They suffer significantly less depression and dementia, and they remain physically active well into their 90s. Within the secrets of longevity, the islanders, those scientists have attempted to identify, there is one factor that all the researchers seem to agree on, and this is their diet, characterized by the simplicity and inherent ingredients, especially what is known as the Mediterranean diet. And they fill pages of the benefits of the Mediterranean diet, pages. Then they add the social ties, the daily movements due to the mutual labor and rural living. It's not going to the gym, just their movement around the day with manual labor and farms and fields. And the relaxed space and no stress and no appointments and so on and so on. And so on, the speakers or writers go forever. You can search it for yourself if you haven't done it so far. I'm not here to exhaust you completely, so I will stop here. The long descriptions and reasoning, you get the idea. But wait, could it be just that all this is all related solely to the genes makeup? Briefly, let's dive into the details. After all, with critical analysis, we must observe the data set and see if there is any distribution. Is there any variance? What is the variance? Examine the fringe positions and see what we can deduce or reject from the data set. So let's start with as we said, with the Greek island of Icaria, where people enjoy slow pace of life, fresh fish, fresh vegetables, a glass of red wine, few cups of dark coffee, Mediterranean diet, Mediterranean climate, and surrounded by a strong community. So far, so good. But here is the shocker. Aren't all the nearby islands of Greece exactly the same? We're talking about the eastern side of the islands of Greece. This is the same sea. It's called the Icarian Sea, with the same climate, same people, same culture, same habits, same food, same everything. In fact, most of the Greek islands have the same culture quite alike. So what makes Icaria then to have so many centenarians, where the nearby islands like Samos or Naxos or Scala would not have? Don't they all drink the same Greek coffee also in Naxos or in Patmos? So here is the possible realization that the researchers might have missed. Could it be just that it's their gene makeup that make them so stronger and different? Remember to say that all these places are somehow isolated. So it could be well that just these places were inherently made of long-living people with good genes, tight heritage, and natural selection of the species. It's the same thing with Sardinia. We shift to Sardinia, the island now under Italy. It is only 8 miles away from Corsica. They belong to different countries, but it's the same food, the same culture, the same life, the same salty smell of the sea. Aren't they just the same? I know Corsica very well. Other than maybe it could be just that the Centenarians have developed more robust longevity by natural selection and proper mutations. To give you an example, Sardinian's dialect is not even related to any dialect spoken in mainland Italy. It is a unique dialect, radically different from all the Italian dialects, to show you the isolation. So now you may ask, okay, Why is it then these particular two islands we've talked about have developed great longevity, and this is not occurring in the rest of the islands of the Mediterranean, as all may be having the same natural island culture and settings? And the reason is that there's no reason. It could be just happening in these islands. And since they do not mix and mingle with other islands, they've kept their robust genes. And there is another reason, or reasons. What is the difference between Sardinia and Sicily, or Crete, or Malta? Those are other islands in the Mediterranean. They are not far away. And the answer is that Sicily, Crete, and Malta were major strategical focal point in history for all the empires of the sea. And they've been conquered and occupied many times by many empires. Therefore, there must have been a mix of people in each of these islands, and not strict isolation as one may find in Icaria or Sardinia or in Okinawa. Here's an example. If you look at the DNA of Sicilians, for example, you must take into the account that Sicily have been invaded and colonized so many times by so many different groups over the past 3 millennia. Hence, it is obviously not accurate to refer to them as one homogeneous group. This cannot be said for the island of Icaria and even Sardinia, or probably not for Okinawa. And the same thing may be applied to Nicoya. Nicoya is located in a peninsula in Central America under Costa Rica state, and there's not much difference in culture or food or what have you in between Nicoya and nearby villages or in the same peninsula or in the mainland. But it could have been just that they've been more isolated. After all, no gold or minerals were to be found there, or special interest that may be presented there, and not even best surfing beaches of Costa Rica. And by the way, Nicoya is not even on the beach. As a fringe benefit, you may find that the climate is milder and more favorable in Nicoya than in Central America mainland, which is dominated by a long wet season with much rain. But as far as climate, it seems another factor and another discussion. In fact, up to now, researchers relate moderately cold temperature to increased longevity. This is not exactly in tandem with the blue state and the blue zones, where I find the climate to be moderate and painless. Loma Linda, California, is an isolated community. They live in California, which is already having the food and the good weather and the good produce of Southern California, but they also have a strong faith, coupled with healthy habits, such as many vegetarians, no alcohol, no coffee, and 1 day of complete rest. This is the Sabbath. Loma Linda is mentioned as a good example of how religion offers one important source of social connection in the blue zones. But what makes it different than other religious communities? Is it not evident? It's not that evident. We will touch on that on part 3 in this presentation, and in part 4 you may observe people, examples of centenarians living with no connection to any religion, and they live a long life. Okinawa is the farthest southern island of Japan, therefore again somehow more isolated and having even better, milder weather than mainland Japan. Obviously, it is quite far away from Asia mainland. Okinawa is a set of isolated islands about 400 miles from Japan and 500 miles from China. So this sets Okinawa apart as a world into itself. And nothing much said about Okinawa diet or any difference between Japanese communities other than they eat more sweet potatoes and marine organisms like seaweed, algae and kelp. There is no other difference. Eating sweet potatoes and kelp is the answer to longevity. You decide. And I think that this analysis is sufficient without the need to show you any maps and discuss longitudes and latitudes and climates to convince you that these chosen places are kind of isolated places which could have developed and sustained their own pool of genes. So yes, we can fill up pages and pages, videos after videos, praising the lifestyles of the blue zones. And indeed, they all have their merit. It makes sense that proper, healthy lifestyle should contribute to longer longevity. But it's not necessarily a direct relationship. And on that, please see my follow-up video. But as it's seen here, it could be just the denominating factor of longevity is just a matter of having good genes and robust bodily structure has been given to you by your ancestors. And on that and on longevity in large, please see my follow-up video. By the way, I didn't want to tie you up here completely, so I divided the subject into 5 different sections. In this video that you're watching right now, we bring the critical analysis of the theories of the blue zones. But people who are interested in further analysis of longevity, please continue to my next video. The link is in the end and also down below. Because in part 2 and part 3, I will bring some real-life examples of some of the aspects of each one of you may already know. And these are people who are far, far away from any Mediterranean diet or any diet at all, do not exercise, do not take any supplements, do not follow any of the guidelines that the research of longevity claims so enthusiastically to increase their lifespan, and they still reach a very old age. Is it a paradox? Not really. So stay tuned. To summarize this so short chapter, it is always beneficial to confront all the theories which are popping up like mushrooms after the rain and take it all with a grain of salt. They all have to be scrutinized with a lot of common sense and of the viewer. That is you. As for now, it is quite safe to assume that the reasons for longer life in the blue zones may not be directed merely to the lifestyles, albeit it has its own merit too, for sure, but may be more related to the gene factor. And there are good reasons for this assumption. You may see that in the next video. For more about longevity, lifespan, statistical feasibility, and life examples, please see my follow-up video part 2. Click here and or in the link supplied below.